somehow sneaked into the temple. You had given your dirty blanket to Madana. You had taken his yellow chadar, and now you come back due to some strange idea in your head to exchange his chadar with your blanket. Are you in your right mind? Go, I said, go. Do never come back to this temple. So the lady cried even more. She went back in her house, and now she was really ready to die. But in the evening, Madame Mohan appeared to the pujari and said, "It was me who went to that lady, because you had forbidden the lady to bring milk. I came to drink my milk from this lady's house. And it was me who took her chadar, and me who arranged that my chadar is at her place. Just to show you fools that I can be worshipped only through devotion. From now on, allow the lady to come every evening and bring her baba milk, devotional milk offering. I need that in order to stay alive." And this is an example which shows you how Krishna revealed himself according to the time of the circumstances. Madan Mohan here, Radha Madan Mohan, something happened which I want to share with you. Once there was a quarrel in our pujari department. This quarrel became so fierce that our pujari department threatened to fall in two halves. One half took one side of the argument, the second half another. The quarrel was about this. When we offer something to Madana Mohan, what is more important? To be punctual, really on time, or to cook nicely, and if it takes a little longer before it's ready, then this is also alright. So there was the punctuality fraction, and on the other side, the nice preparation fraction. They were, we are in Kali Yuga, any little thing which is there is a reason to fight, so that they were fighting. And then the noon offering came. Not heavy fighting, but arguing is perhaps the way. So, the pujari, the lady pujari, she's a wonderful devotee and lives outside of Germany. She came with the offering plate. She had cooked a noon offering with very nice preparation. She belonged to the nice preparation fraction. She came as she wanted to enter the altar. A representative of the punctuality fraction was standing there and saying, "No entry, keep your offering, you're 5.5 minutes too late." So the lady was heartbroken. She had prepared really nice preparations, nicely spiced cheese, and nice chutneys, chapatis, paratha, mango, sandesh, everything. Don't allow your water to come in because it's for Krishna. So it was all ready. Now she was denied to give her offering to the Lord. So she looked, really 5 minutes too late. She looked at her wristwatch. It showed 12 o'clock. o'clock. My God, my wristwatch is also 12 o'clock. It showed 12 o'clock. No, 5.5 minutes too late. So the lady from the punctuality fraction went into the kitchen and looked at the absolutely correct X-ray directed modern clock, 12 o'clock. We looked in all the wristwatches in this building. Everything was 12 o'clock. Although by Google time it was 12:05 and by now 12:06 to 12:07. Madana had stopped the time and had directed the wristwatch in order to make his point. I am more pleased by a devotional offering than an offering that is only keeping the standards of deity worship. Of course, this doesn't mean 12:30 or 12:20 or 12:50 or 12:10, but a little, if it is done not in a careless fashion, but in a mode of devotion and service, then it's good. This is also how I understand Prabhupada's mood in coming to the West. There was another situation. See, the deities, when you stand before them, they are facing the audience, you. When you come before the deities, they are looking at you. So one pujari thought, let Madan Mohan look at his best devotee, Radharani. So he moved the deity a little bit like this. So look at Radharani. Then he opened the temple, the curtain, and he saw Madan Mohan had gone back to his place. So she thought, maybe I was a little tired, or maybe in the past I had taken some alcohol in the past, before coming to Krishna consciousness, and it became released, and some intoxication from 20 years back has returned. So she took that. The next time she also again put Madan Mohan facing Radharani and not the audience. And again Madan Mohan had moved back. Then she tried it a third time, just to be sure that this is a miracle. And she again saw Madan Mohan going back in his place of facing the devotees. If you look at Madan Mohan, he looks a little bit above your head when you stand before him. He looks at your future self, which has grown a little bit from the present state. I think there are many such miracles, but I want to conclude. How do we see the deities? It is with eyes of love, then you can see. I had to learn this lesson in a difficult way. I was invited to start the Kirtan Mela in Mayapur, or to lead the Kirtan Mela. Maybe it had started before. And there was one year where we all, when we did Kirtan, we saw tears were coming out of Gauranga's eyes and of Nityananda's eyes, Vedacharya. All the deities were crying. And devotees started to fly in from all parts of the world to see the crying miracle of the deities. The deities were crying when they heard the kirtan. There was water running. So what can I do? I grew up with a magazine called Das Bild der Wissenschaft, a science magazine. Well, let me just make a test. So I asked the pujaris if I could please come in the pujari room And I went into the pujari room and I looked from the back and I saw water like strains of tears coming down the back. Okay, this means the water which is running down is condensed water. There were so many of us sweating in the Mayapur temple, a lot of humidity in the air, and the water was running down here on the forehead, and it looked like tears, but it was also running down in the back. So no one has eyes, no one cries in the back. So I was then asked to make a public statement, and I wanted to say, my dear devotees, miracles are fine with me, but this is not a miracle. This is a natural phenomena. It's condensed water. Then I went to one of the pujaris, I forgot whom, and I asked him, what do you think about this? I don't think this is a miracle. This is not supernatural. This is condensed water. I've gone on the altar and I've seen the same water running down the back. And I don't think it's good if our ISKCON devotees believe in, it looks ridiculous to the world. And then not so many people base their money to come flying here. And the pujari leaned back and said, Satchidananda Swami, the deities always cry when there is kirtan. Look in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. The deities are singing, when the devotees sing, Lord Chaitanya is in ecstasy, he perspires and cries. So those who say the deities are crying are right, and those who say it's condensed water, they are also right. But you have to choose your side. On what side are you? Are you on the side of those who think of Baba, of devotional, how do we say in our movement, the devotional mood? Then you can see one thing, and when you are not in the devotional mood, when you're in the scientific mood, you see another thing. Both are right. But what is your viewpoint? So then I made my public announcement. I said, my dear devotees, Lord Chaitanya in the kirtan is always dancing and crying. And when many people come together, objects have condensed water. So when you approach the deities, you have to look through the eyes of devotion. That is the point. Without devotion, you cannot see the deities. We are very lucky that Radha Madana are with us. I'm personally very grateful. I lived here for perhaps more than 10 years, and now I don't know. I'm not so good in remembering numbers, but I can say that for me, Radha Madana Mohana are my deities. When they came to Germany, I think we will hear the story how they came from others. I was there in the beginning, and I remember they had a pujari, wonderful devotee, Radha Prabhu, who every evening prepared the deities to go to bed, and they get the night pyjama for the night rest, and he has invited me every evening to come and read for them from the nectar of devotion. So every day for a few years I was in the deity room when they went to bed and read the nectar of devotion. It was just so sweet, so intimate, such a wonderful moment. And I can only encourage you, make your relationship with Radha Madana Mohan, do a little service, and you will see how much they respond. They are, as far as we are concerned, one of the most wonderful deities on the planet Earth. Other worshippers will say their deities are the most wonderful, and they are also right, because you can only understand Krishna through service and through love, and that you will direct to your local deity. Thank you very much. I know we have a lot of others to contribute. I will end here and request you to repeat after me. Jayatam Surato Pango,
Jayatam Surato Pango,
Mamamanda Matyagati,
Mamamanda Matyagati,
Matsarva Swapadam Bojo,
Matsarva Swapadam Bojo,
Shishirana Madana Mohano,
Shishirana Madana Mohano,
Shishirana Mohana Ki Jai.
Thank you so much. Beautiful points and memories. And yes, we will continue now with we have a video message by His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. Of course, also has a personal relationship to deities and also serves as the global deity minister at some point.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, in Golokadam, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary celebration of the installation of Shri Radha Madana Mohan, Shri Radha Madana Mohan Ki Jai, Jayatam Surato Pangur, Mamamanda Matyagati, Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohana. I'm happy that I can share with you a few points of memory from my experience, my time in the service of Shri Radha Madana Mohan, direct or indirect. And I'm sorry I cannot be there with you directly, but I hope this will serve its purpose. I was not present when their lordships were installed in Germany. I was in Denmark at the time, if I remember correctly, and I returned to Germany fairly soon after their installation. I was engaged in book distribution as a brahmachari, based at the temple of Radha Madana Mohan, Schloss Rettershof, and we would travel for 1 week at a time, returning to the temple on the weekends and having joyful meetings together at kirtans. And I remember it was a Sunday evening, getting ready to go back out for another week of distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. I was already resting, and the temple commander at that time, Suchandra Prabhu, now His Holiness Bhakti Bhushan Swami, came to me and sort of shook me gently on the shoulder and said, Prabhu, could you please stay back this week and help with the deity worship? And I was so happy to get this request, and the 1 week ended up being 1 year in which I was engaged in service mainly to Shri Gauranitai and Chota Radha Krishna, and we must have also had Chota Jagannath Subhadra Baldev with us. They are now in Zurich Temple. So we had our daily routines of service, and it was a pleasant time. It was especially nice to be in the association of Ashtarata Prabhu, who was the head pujari. He was very dedicated to his service, and I might say he was running, we would say in English, he ran a tight ship. He kept everything and everyone to very strict standards. And those standards, I might mention, if it's not already been mentioned by others, or even if it has, Ashtarata Prabhu's model for worship was the Radha Ramana temple in Vrindavan, which still to the present day has standards they've been maintaining for the last more than four centuries. And this meant, in particular, there would be only men on the altar or doing altar service. And it also meant there would be worship with minimum use of electric lights wherever possible, certainly as you do, I believe now in the morning. Mangalarti, you have only the ghee lamps burning, and these what in English would be called tapers, the arti lamp, the long stem arti lamp. This is inspired by the Radha Raman temple in Vrindavan, because Srila Prabhupada had told one or two devotees that they could learn how to do worship from the Radha Raman temple. And so that was taken quite seriously. I was, I must say, hoping that Radha Madana Mohana, after they moved to Singhachalam, at that time known as Nava Jiva in Singha Kshetra, we managed to get it simplified to Singhachalam. My hope was that they would stay in Singhachalam, Radha Madana Mohana, but it was not to be. Krishna, Radha Madana had another plan, and so there they are, where you are presently worshiping them. I would just say that we all continue to be blessed by their presence, and it's kind of a shock to be thinking it's been 50 years already. My prayer would be that the worship goes on in such a nice way as I know it does now for the next 50 years. I'm not going to be around to see that. Some of you who are younger may still be around at that time, but I want to say that I want to express my appreciation of the service that's being done for their lordships by the Goloka Dham Vasis. It is not always easy, as we say in English, serving through thick and thin, and service is not always appreciated. Unfortunately, pujaris, cooks, and all those supporting the worship tend to be unsung heroes, but heroes nonetheless. Oh yes, I wanted to say one detail that may amuse you. When we were in Schloss Reddershof, in general, it was Ashtarata Prabhu who would address Radha Madana Mohan, and he always did so very carefully, meticulously. I remember there came a time, about a 3-week period, when Ashtarata went to India, and he asked me to take care of the worship of Madana Mohan and dress them. So I did so, but I don't know if there are any photos from that time. But I couldn't resist. I sometimes would mix and match the outfits. So I know it was a little crazy, and so I'm confessing this to all of you so many years later. But sometimes the mixing was only that, a mix, and not much of a match. But I thought it might be interesting for their lordships. I still don't know what they thought of that, but I guess they were tolerating it for the 3 weeks, knowing that their proper pujari would be coming back very soon. And so these are my brief thoughts and memories, and I would say let us make sure that the next generation carries on this tradition, this mood of careful worship and heartfelt worship of the lordships. And if we can do that, then we of the older generation or generations, we can say we will have been successful in some way in the worship of Shri Radha Madana Mohan Jayadam Sudatopangur Mama Mandana Devati Matsarvaspa Tanamba Jo Radha Madana Mohana. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prabhupada Vasis Ki Jai, Shri Radha Madana Mohan Ki Jai, Guru Premanandi Hari Bol.
His Holiness Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna. It's nice to hear from this senior devotees who have been there, personally worshipping the Lordship. And as we heard from the video, one personality, a devotee who's played a very key role in the history of the deities is Ashtarata Prabhu. And he was the first head pujari, and as we heard, worshipped Radha Madana Mohan very wonderfully, beautifully. And unfortunately, Ashtarata Prabhu is not personally with us, but we have a text which describes his relationship with the deities, and according to our schedule, this is the next part, the Gana Mata. Yes? Already ready. But we'll read the text for us, and I believe it will be also on the screen, is this right? Yeah. So if you could kindly come, you can have a seat there, so everyone can see you. And usually when we have to listen to a text which is read, sometimes the mind goes off. So please try to remain focused and give your full attention to this description. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Ehre, hier den Beitrag von Radha Prabhu zu lesen. Euch? Ich spreche Deutsch. Vorab wollte ich ein paar Worte über Radha Prabhu sagen, weil mir begegnen oft Devotees, die kennen natürlich seinen Namen, viele haben seinen Namen schon gehört, aber sie fragen.
So I will be translating into English, and Mataji, she is presenting the text of Radha Prabhu, and she said she would like to start with sharing a few words about him because many of us don't even know him anymore, like me.
Ja. So, also mir begegnen oft Devotees, die seinen Namen gehört haben, aber die ihn nicht kennen und die sich auch wundern, warum er in dieser Bewegung nicht mehr ist.
So a lot of devotees have never heard his name and are wondering why he's not visible in our movement anymore.
Und ich wollte ganz kurz die Geschichte erzählen, warum es dazu kam. Es war ungefähr 1995, denke ich. 95. Da entbrannte die Diskussion darüber, sind wir aus der spirituellen Welt gefallen oder nicht. Also für mich persönlich hat es jetzt nicht so große Relevanz, aber das war die Diskussion damals.
So it was around 1995 when we had a heated discussion amongst the devotees about this topic. Did we fall from the spiritual world? Is that even possible? Or did we find another way into this world? And she said, I was personally not so involved, but around 1995 it was a big discussion.
Und Radha Prabhu vertritt die Ansicht, wir sind nicht aus der spirituellen Welt gefallen, der GBC, geleitet von Sri Vishnupad, Harikish, meinem spirituellen Meister, war und ist anscheinend immer noch der Ansicht, wir sind aus der spirituellen Welt gefallen.
Okay, and back then, the GBC, Vishnupad, Swami, her guru, had the opinion that we sind aus der spirituellen Welt gefallen oder nicht. Was war Vishnupad?
Also Vishnupad oder GBC meinte, wir sind aus der spirituellen Welt gefallen, Radha nein.
So Vishnupad that we did fall from the spiritual world, but Radha Prabhu said we didn't.
So, das spitzte sich dann zu und gipfelte darin, dass Sri Vishnupad Radha einen Brief geschrieben hat. Er hat geschrieben, wenn du weiterhin diese Meinung vertrittst, gehst du.
And this conflict boiled more and more, and then Vishnupad at one point wrote a letter to Radha Prabhu and said, if you continue speaking about this, your opinion, which contradicts mine, you will have to leave.
You have to go. Ja. So, das wollte ich nur kurz mal zur Aufklärung noch sagen, weil sich viele fragen, warum ist denn das alles so? So, ich werde euch jetzt diesen Text lesen von Radha, der die ganze Geschichte von Radha Madana beinhaltet.
So I will read this text to you from Radha, which depicts the whole story of Radha Madana.
An Shri Shri Radha Madana Devaji.
To Shri Shri Radha Madana Devaji.
Ehrerbietungen, wieder und wieder, dem ewigen göttlichen Paar, der Regenwolke unergründlicher Barmherzigkeit, das zum Segen der im Brahmananda umherirrenden Jivas als Archa Vigraha erschienen ist, um all denen, die ohne Zuflucht sind, Zuflucht bei ihren Lotusfüßen zu gewähren und sie in jenen Dienst einzuführen, der weit jenseits allem Vergänglichen, bar aller körperlichen Identitäten und mentalen Begrenzungen in der Entfaltung transzendentaler göttlicher Liebe seine Vollkommenheit erfährt. Ehrerbietungen wieder und wieder, euch, dem göttlichen Paar, die ihr selbst diesen in der Fata Morgana des weltlichen Strebens verlorenen Jivaka in euren Dienst aufgenommen habt, die ihr ihn mit eurer Sambandha gesegnet und vor allen Wirren des Samsara beschützt habt. Dieser Jivaka, unfähig für die Gnade und Einblicke, die ihr ihm gewährt habt, Worte zu finden, versucht nun dennoch, seine Geschichte zu erzählen, oder besser eure Geschichte, denn ohne eure Geschichte, euer Lila, gäbe es die seine nicht. Es begann mit einer Herzattacke, damals in Neu-Delhi, als ich von Hamsadutta mit Rupees und einem Begleiter ausgestattet die ersten Einkäufe für euch im Chandichuk betätigt haben. Denn die Installation eurer Archa-Vigraha stand an, sobald wir nach Deutschland zurückkehren würden. Meine Erinnerung kann nicht mehr alle Details wiedergeben, aber ich weiß noch, dass ich silberne Schirme, Chakras, ein paar Stoffe für Outfits und einen Lota mit Holzquirl gekauft habe. Danach fingen die Schmerzen in der Brust an. Ikshvaku, mein Begleiter, hatte ein Zimmer in der Nähe des Tempels gemietet, von wo aus er mich frühmorgens verzweifelt ins Krankenhaus brachte. Und als ich von den mir verabreichten Morphiumspritzen wieder erwachte, standen Hamsadutta und Ikshvaku an meinem Bett und ich hörte, wie Hamsadutta zu Ikshvaku sagte, I think he will make it. Ich denke, er wird es schaffen. Vom Krankenhaus entlassen und auf einem alten Bett in einem alten Hotelzimmer aus der Kolonialzeit liegend, wartete ich, schwach wie ich war, auf meinen Flug nach Frankfurt, meine Rückkehr zum Schloss, wie wir es nannten. Aber meine Gedanken eilten schon voraus, kreisten um die Deities und wie es wohl sein wird, wenn sie dort erst einmal verehrt werden würden. Wenn sie mit den Stoffen, die ich gekauft hatte, eingekleidet werden und ob die silbernen Schirme auch wirklich zum Altar passten. Dem Schloss wurde nie ein Sanskrit-Name gegeben. Es war einfach das Schloss Radha. Und in der Tat, es wurde zur Rettung für so manche. Und es wurde auch das Schloss von Sri Radha Mohana. Eine Woche nach meiner Rückkehr fand ihre Prana Pradishta, ihre Installation statt. Aus heutiger Sicht betrachtet war sie einfach im Prabhupada-Stil, so wie wir es vollzogen hatten, so wie er es vollzogen hatte, mit den bescheidenen Mitteln, die ihm damals zur Verfügung standen. Das bedeutete hauptsächlich Baden mit Milch, Joghurt, Ghee, Honig und Zuckerwasser und einem Feuerwerk zu den Acharyas, zum Panchatattva und zu Radha und Krishna. Hamsadutta war der Priester, seine Frau Himavati schmückte die Deities. Danach wurde es zu meinem Dienst, meiner Seva, einer Seva, die nie enden wollte, die aus der anfänglichen Einfachheit heraus wachsen wollte zu einer Verehrung, die der Tradition der Gaudiya Vaishnavas, ihrer Vidhi, ihren Regeln und Gebräuchen, so gut es ging, gerecht werden wollte. Einer Verehrung, die mehr als 2 Hände erforderte, mehr als nur ein schnelles Gießen von Wasser als Bad für Radha Krishna. Helfer wurden gebraucht, denn Sri Radha Madana Mohan wollten ihre Geweihten um sich scharen, ihnen Gelegenheit zum Dienen geben. Da waren Tirthada Prabhu, Vinasharana Devi, Ratnagava Prabhu, Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, Köchinnen wie Kanchani Devi, Surabi Devi, Renuka und noch andere, an deren Namen ich mich nicht mehr erinnern kann. Da waren die anfangs von Himavati angeleiteten fleißigen und von Asterata geplagten Deity-Schneiderinnen, die manchmal ganze Nächte opferten, damit ein neues Outfit zum Sonntagmorgen zur Begrüßung noch rechtzeitig fertig wurde. Auf Anweisung Srila Prabhupads kam die erste englische Übersetzung des Archana Padati, einer Anleitung zur Verehrung der Archa-Vigraha, wie auch den Regeln, nach denen sich ihre Pujaris zu richten hatten in unsere kleine Tempelwelt. Von nun an gab es Mantras, Mudras, Patras und Lotas, Asana Shuddhi, Bhuta Shuddhi, Patya, Agya, Madhupaka und all die anderen Artikel, die einer traditionellen Puja angemessen waren. Anfangs eine Herausforderung, aber auch eine Bestätigung dafür, dass wir gefallenen Lecchas tatsächlich brahmanische Pflichten und Aufgaben zu erfüllen in der Lage waren, wie mangelhaft auch immer in diesen anfänglichen Zeiten. Doch diese Bemühung wollte auch neue Formen sehen, wie einen neuen, nach traditionellem Vorbild geschnitzten Altar, schöne geschnitzte Türen anstatt dem bisherigen Stoffvorhang, angemessene Beleuchtung, Glühlampen und vieles mehr. Irgendwann erhielt ich von einem Devotee einige Goldmünzen, die ich mit gutem Gewinn verkaufen konnte. Genug, um all dies zu finanzieren. Ein Dummkopf, wer denkt, dies sei nicht die Arrangierung von oben gewesen. Shri Radha Madana schickt nicht nur das Geld, sondern auch gleich einen gelernten Holzschnitzer, den Kamadenu aus der Schweiz. Aber was wäre all dies ohne die Bewunderer, die Verehrer dieses immer neuen Erscheinens ihrer Herrlichkeiten? Es waren die Shringa-Aratis, die Begrüßungen, wie sie genannt wurden, die den Höhepunkt darstellten. Worte können diese Momente nicht beschreiben, in denen sich die Seelen vor dem göttlichen Paar ganz öffnen. Da standen sie, alle die Sankirtan-Devotis, die ganze Woche über durch die Straßen der Städte zogen, um Srila Prabhupads Bücher zu verkaufen, um sie den vom Kali-Yuga geplagten Menschen als Lichtstrahl in ihr Leben zu bringen. Es geschah nicht immer mit legitimen Mitteln, nicht immer mit lauteren Absichten. Es kam zu gerechtfertigten oder auch nicht gerechtfertigten Anklagen und Gerichtsfällen. Selbst ich blieb davon nicht verschont, denn aus irgendeinem Grund war ich offiziell für eine Zeit lang auf dem Papier der Präsident von ISKCON Deutschland gewesen. So kam es, dass mich der Staatsanwalt im Gerichtssaal anschrie: Verstecken Sie sich nicht hinter der Maske des Tempelpriesters! Auch das kann einem Pujaari widerfahren. Wir hatten nun das Puja-Buch, die Mantras. Wir wussten jetzt, wie man ein Panchapatra und eine Bademuschel installiert, aber es fehlte noch an gewissen Feinheiten in der Küche, am indischen Know-how. Es muss schließlich Srimati Radharani, die beste aller Köchinnen selbst gewesen sein, die Mataji Narahari aus England schickte, mit Saris und Gujarati-Kochkunst im Gepäck. Und es muss Srimati Radharani selbst gewesen sein, die sie nicht mehr gehen ließ, die sie weise durch die Höhen und Tiefen des Tempellebens und ihres in diesem Leben noch verbleibenden Karmas führte und immer noch führt. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. Wie viele verwirrte, suchende, leidende und sogar verrückte Seelen habt ihr zu euch kommen lassen? Wie viele sind wieder gegangen? Nach Tagen, nach Wochen, nach Jahren. Von irgendwoher sind sie gekommen, irgendwohin sind sie wieder verschwunden. Vielleicht, weil sie die Gnade nicht erkannten, die sich ihnen bot. Vielleicht, weil ihre Egos, ihre materiellen Ängste und Wünsche sie wieder hinaustrugen in den unendlichen Kreislauf des Samsara. Das Jahr war 1979 oder war es doch schon 1980. Der Tag kam, an dem bekannt wurde, dass Schloss Rettershof verkauft werden soll. Das Gerücht stand schon im Raum, aber jetzt war es amtlich. Die Option, es zu kaufen, bestand. Es war bis dahin ja nur gemietet. Und entgegen Srila Prabhupads ursprünglicher Anweisung, never leave this place, diesen Platz nie aufzugeben, wurde es trotzdem, warum auch immer, aufgegeben und blieb zurück als Geschichte, als 1000 Geschichten. Denn jeder eurer Devotees hat seine eigenen Erlebnisse, seine ganz eigenen Erkenntnisse. Aber wohin mit Radha Madan Mohan? Im Bayerischen Wald wurde ein alter Bauernhof gekauft, weil er billig war und weit abseits lag. Der Trend zur Selbstversorgung, Befürchtungen vor einem eventuellen Krieg und andere Lebensängste spielen dabei eine nicht unwesentliche Rolle. Harikesh Swami, der damalige leitende GBC, hatte eine besondere Anziehung zu Krishna in seiner Form als Sri Nrsimhadev entwickelt und hielt es für angebracht, ja zum Schutz der Geweihten notwendig, einen Tempel für ihn zu errichten und einen aus schwarzem Stein gehauenen Murti dort zu installieren. Auch war dies in Akkord mit Srila Prabhupada, allerdings mit der Auflage, dass Sri Nrsimhadev seinen eigenen Tempel haben müsse. Dann aber wohin mit Sri Radha Madana? Wir werden 2 Tempel bauen, sagte man mir. Und so stand ihrem Umzug in den Bayerischen Wald nichts mehr im Wege. Navajyada Nishingakshetra wurden die 20 Hektar Land mit ihren zum Teil maroden Gebäuden darauf genannt, als Ankündigung, wer dort in Zukunft der Herr, der höchste Herr, sein wird. Der erste Tempel, der Tempel für Radha Madana, war ein Provisorium. Ein Teil des wahrscheinlich früher als Wohnzimmer dienenden Raumes im Parterre des in der späten Nachkriegszeit erbauten Wohnhauses wurde mit Sperrholzplatten abgetrennt und in den Deity-Raum verwandelt. Der anschließende Nebenraum, in dem sich bereits ein Waschbecken befand, wurde zum Deity-Vorraum, dem eigentlichen Ort des Geschehens, wo Paraphernalia poliert und gewaschen, Tücher gebügelt, Mahaprasadam transferiert und aufgeteilt wurde, wo wir als Pujaris während frivoler Momente unsere Witze machten. Wir sind ein gutes Team gewesen, Krishna Kshetra Prabhu und ich. Er war immer bereit, wenn Extradienst vonnöten war, weil eine Mataji ihre Tage hatte oder die Opferung nicht kochen konnte oder weil jemand krank war oder sonst irgendwas. Eine kleine Dachkammer, gerade mal 10 Quadratmeter groß, war unser Ashram, den wir noch mit 2 anderen Devotis teilten und manchmal auch noch mit ein paar Mäusen, die nach Futter oder einen katzensicheren Unterschlupf suchten. Mit einem Anklang von Wehmut blicke ich auf diese Jahre zurück, in denen so viel geschehen ist. Mit uns, mit unserem Reiferwerden, unserem Verständnis von Surrender. Von 2 Tempeln war längst nicht mehr die Rede. Stattdessen wurden Pläne für 2 Altäre in einem Tempel gemacht. Das alte Bauernhaus wurde innerhalb von Tagen voll und ganz abgerissen. An dessen Stelle trat ein Neubau, der dem alten Gebäude äußerlich zwar glich, im Innern jedoch den Tempel, die Tempelküche und den Brahmachari Ashram beherbergte. Umso höher die neuen Mauern aus dem Boden wuchsen, umso mehr wuchs in mir das eigenartige Gefühl, dass Radha Madana nicht in diesen Tempel einziehen wollte. Ein Gefühl, das jedes Mal, wenn ich sie neu ankleidete, von ihrer Seite her bestätigt zu werden schien. So ging das über Wochen, bis ich schließlich Kriparama, dem Tempelpräsidenten, davon berichtete, in der Hoffnung, dass er näher darauf eingehen und eine andere Lösung finden würde. Aber er wollte mein Anliegen nicht ernst nehmen, tat es ab als Pujari-Hirngespinst und riet mir befehlend, den Mund zu halten und das Projekt nicht zu stören, das ohnehin schon zu weit fortgeschritten war, um es noch zu ändern. So blieb mir nur noch, mich an die Götter zu wenden. Und ihre Antwort kam, als Schriftuleka da. Doch bis dahin sollten noch Jahre, viele Jahre vergehen. Es muss Anfang der 80er Jahre gewesen sein, als der Neubau fertiggestellt war. Es geht jetzt um die Farm, es geht um die Farm. Es muss Anfang der 80er Jahre gewesen sein, als der Neubau fertiggestellt war und wir ohne viel zeremoniell mit Sri Radha Madana in den neuen Tempel zogen, der nach damaligem Standard der Möglichkeiten wirklich beeindruckend war. Rötlich brauner Marmorboden, Marmorfliesen an den Wänden, Spiegel an der Decke, Kristallleuchter, bleiverglaste Fenster. Zwischen den beiden erhöhten Altarräumen der neue Vyasasam von Srila Prabhupada. Die von Kamadhenu geschnitzten Türen wurden vom Tischler angepasst. Ein neuer Altar aus Mahagoniholz stand ebenfalls bereit. Unter den beiden Altarräumen gab es den Deity-Vorraum, den Platz des Vorher und Nachher, des Vorbereitens und Abwaschens, des Wartens zwischen den Boga-Opferungen, des Japa und Gayatri-Chantens. Und dann war da noch der anschließende Puja-Raum, insbesondere bestimmt zur Verehrung der 14 Shalakam-Shilas, die inzwischen hinzugekommen waren und dem Altar eine gewisse Vollständigkeit verliehen. Das alles verlangte noch nach mehr, einem höheren Standard der Verehrung, nach schöneren Paraphernalia, silbernen Opfertellern, silbernen Aratiklampen, silbernen Wasserlotas, silbernen Panchapatras und vor allem nach silbernen Schmuck der Sri Radha Madana. Sind sie es selbst gewesen, die ihrer Verehrung mehr Opulenz verleihen wollten? War es der Eifer ihres Pujaris, der eine Anhaftung zu schönen Dingen hatte? Hier mag sich die Frage nach dem Ursprung stellen, dem unlösbaren Rätsel, wer der Wünschende ist und wo ein Wunsch beginnt. Seid ihr es, Shri Radha Madana Mohan, die ihr in eure geweihten Samen gleich die Wünsche pflanzt, die eurem Dienst entsprechen? Oder entstehen sie aus dem Herzen der Geweihten selbst und ihr genießt es, eure Wünsche zu erfüllen? Oder sind es gar beide im Zusammenspiel? Akshara Prabhu, einer der ehemaligen Tempelpräsidenten des Schloss Rettershof, der zu einem gut verdienenden Geschäftsmann avancierte, spendete das Geld dafür. So kamen allmählich eine Glühlampe zur anderen, eine Krone, ein Lota, ein paar Katoris und all die anderen kleinen, aber doch wichtigen Dinge zusammen, die eine Puja so anziehen können. Aber es sind nicht die Gegenstände, nicht das Silber oder Gold. Es ist die Hingabe des Pujari an sich, die diesen Gegenständen Wert verleiht. Ohne Bhakti sind sie bedeutungslos. Für eine Zeit lang ist es allein der Tempel für Sri Radha Madana Mohan gewesen. Die Türen zum Altar von Sri Prahlad Nrsimhadev blieben noch geschlossen. Doch dann kam der Tag, oder besser die Tage seiner Installation. Eine Installation, die bis dahin in der Welt, in der westlichen Vaishnavas noch nicht seinesgleichen gesehen hat. Es war ein weit und tiefgreifendes Ereignis. Und es dauerte seine Zeit, bis die Devotis die zwei unterschiedlichen Bhavas verstehen und einordnen konnten. Hier Goloka, da Vaikuntha, hier Radha und Krishna, da Sri Vishnu in seiner Form als Nrsimha und sein geliebter Bhakta Prahlad, der allein imstande war, den Zorn des Nrsimhas zu besänftigen. Von nun an gab es zwei Mangel-Aratiks, zwei Begrüßungen. Die eine mit Yamuna Devis Govindam Adipurusham, die andere mit Krishna Kshetra Prabhus Sri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha. Es bedurfte lediglich einer 45-Grad-Wende von Darshan zu Darshan, von Radha Krishna zu Nrsimhadev. Die anfängliche Begeisterung der Pujaris fing an, sich zu verringern. Sensible Fragen tauchten auf. Es bedurfte einiger Hammerschläge von Sri Vishnu. So schritt die Zeit voran, den 90er Jahren entgegen. Finanzielle Engpässe bedrängten die Farm, wie wir sie nannten. Die Verehrung zweier Herrlichkeiten begann man allmählich als zu große Last zu sehen. Kann es sein, dass es vielleicht Sri Radha Madana Mohan selbst gewesen sind, die hier die Fäden zogen? Probleme in der Führung der Bewegung verlangten nach Korrekturen, neuen Perspektiven. Sannyasis und sogar Gurus gaben ihren Status auf, ließen Zweifel zurück, Enttäuschung. Auch ich blieb davon nicht verschont. Meine Welt der Puja, mein Dienst zu den Lotusfüßen ihrer Herrlichkeiten, in dem ich mich so sicher fühlte, begann sich zu verändern. Das göttliche Paar zeichnete für ihren Diener langsam neue Wege, und ihr Diener konnte sich ihnen nicht verweigern. Es waren nicht mehr silberne Lampen, Outfits oder Schmuck, mit denen er ihnen dienen sollte. Jetzt wollten sie von ihm ein anderes Opfer. Sie wollten, dass er spricht. Sie schickten neue, jüngere Devotis, die an seine Stelle traten, die von ihm lernten und es besser machten. sie auf Reisen, Predigen genannt, zwischen Norwegen und Sizilien, der wohlhabenden Schweiz, dem kriegsgebeutelten Bosnien. Das Srimad Bhagavatam war nun seine Lampe, die Gita seine Glocke. Eine neue Geschichte begann sich zu entfalten, ein neues Kapitel, das noch nicht zu Ende ist. Was bleibt, ist Smarana, Erinnerungen, Staunen, tiefe Dankbarkeit. Shri Shri Radha Madana Mohan, die ihr unzählige meine Vergehen toleriert, mir aber dennoch eure Barmherzigkeit erwiesen und mich mit sanftem Lächeln durch das Labyrinth meines Karmas geleitet habt. Diesen einen Segen erbitte ich von euch. Möge der Abdruck eurer Lotusfüße für immer das Schmuckstück meines Herzens sein. Astarata Das, 25. April 2025, Bhagavad Nivas, Slowenien.
Vielen Dank, Karma, fürs Lesen. Dankeschön. Wir haben gerade gesagt, auch dass Astarata Prabhu sich mehrmals entschuldigt hat, dass er nicht kommen kann. Er wäre sehr gerne gekommen, aber er ist in Slowenien auch im Deity Worship beschäftigt und konnte die Deities nicht einfach alleine lassen. Sonst aber im Spirit ist er sicher bei uns. Und durch diesen Text sind wir auch, haben wir von ihm gehört. Vielen Dank.
Kurz dazu sagen, morgen werden seine Deities installiert.
Morgen ist die Installation von Deities.
Genau.
Das ist, das ist, ja.
Im Bhagavad Nivas.
Vielen Dank für diese Info. Sollen wir jetzt Vishwanasu Swami Maharaj Ki?
Ja.
Krishna, welcome Maharaj.
So Krishna Prabhu just mentioned that Astarata Prabhu wanted to be here. But that he's doing seva in Slovenia, so he's here in spirit.
Maharaj, please, you have a seat here if you like. So next we have one more reading, and then after we have more devotees also who would like to speak. So we have, as you know, Vedavyas Prabhu at that time, now known as His Holiness Bhakti Gauravani Goswami Maharaj, has written a book, Srila Prabhupada in Germany, with his disciples. Hare Krishna. And our Adishesh Prabhu would read a section from that book which describes how Radha Madana Mohan is manifesting.
So, Hare Krishna. So I will read, there are several short descriptions from different devotees about how Sri Radha Madana Mohan came to Germany. So this is more, let's say, a practical description of the history and the journey of Sri Radha Madana Mohan. How Radha Madana Mohan came to Germany by His Holiness Bhakti Gauravani Goswami, former Vedavyas Prabhu. Prabhupada had come to France in July 1972. The temple was a rented house in Fontenay-aux-Roses, a commune in the southwestern suburbs of Paris. The devotees had planned to have an installation ceremony of a medium-sized set of marble Radha Krishna deities, and thus they were putting all their energy into making the preparations. Pritudas. Vasudev was painting the altar. In fact, practically the whole place was wet from fresh paint. But when Prabhupada assessed the situation, he became doubtful whether the French devotees would be able to provide the necessary standard of worship.
Entschuldigung, kannst du ein kleines bisschen langsamer, dass ich mich besser übersetzen kann? Die ist ziemlich fest.
Etwas langsamer?
Ja.
Okay, kein Problem. Okay. Robert assessed the situation. He became doubtful whether the French devotees would be able to provide the necessary standard of worship. He said, "These deities need 9 brahmanas to worship them. Do we have these brahmanas?" When the reply was negative, Prabhupada suggested that it was better to wait. Astarata, Prabhu. As soon as Hangsadutta heard about this, he went up to Prabhupada's room and said, "Prabhupada, I want these deities." Prabhupada simply said, "Then take them." In this way, Radha and Mohana came to Germany. For almost 3 years, they remained in the Indian metal trunk, because whenever Hangsadutta asked Prabhupada for permission to install them, the response was the same: wait. Dvijavaradas. In spring, so this was before France, 1972. There was description before in July, so now it's time earlier, in spring 1972. After having met the devotees previously in England, I went from Italy to Amsterdam and stayed there for some time in the temple at Betanienstraat. I was not yet initiated and eagerly awaited Prabhupada's visit in August. Meanwhile, we were all busy converting the former garage into a temple room. One day, a devotee named Darsha arrived from India, carrying marble Radha Krishna deities with him. They had been ordered by Hari Vilas for the temple in Paris. The next day, Lochananda and Bugarva arrived in a Volkswagen van to bring Darsha and the deities to France. When I learned that Prabhupada was coming to Paris soon, even before going to Amsterdam, I took the opportunity to go with them. When we arrived in Paris, the devotees were busy preparing the temple for Prabhupada's visit. The whole place smelled of fresh paint. The day Prabhupada was coming, most of the devotees, I included, went to the Orly airport, where we all joined in a lively kirtan, eagerly expecting our spiritual master's arrival. As soon as I saw Prabhupada walking out from customs into the arrival hall, I had all the ecstatic symptoms as described in the Nectar of Devotion. My first thought was that I may be dying. I was choked. I could not breathe. My hair stood on end. I was shaking, and cold tears streamed from my eyes. It was all Prabhupada's mercy. As soon as I saw him, my realization was, finally, I have met my real father. And on the spot, I made up my mind that my life was his. As the temple was quite small, all the visiting devotees were staying at the L'École d'Architecture. However, since I was the driver, I was allowed to stay at the temple, where only the senior disciples were staying with Prabhupada. I would sneak up to the attic, which was situated above Prabhupada's quarters, and sleep there. Sometimes I could hear him chant japa or dictate his translations. One morning, while Srila Prabhupada was leaving the house, he saw that the leaves of an ivy creeper that was growing there were wilted. He stopped and asked, "Why are these leaves wilted?" I remembered having watered that plant, but next to the base there was a red hole, so whenever I put water, it would just gush down and disappear. So I said, "Srila Prabhupada, I used to water the plant, but there is a hole, and the water goes down and vanishes." He gave me a stern look and, pointing with his cane at the base of the creeper, said, "See to it." I thought, this is the first direct instruction from my spiritual master. I have to do something about it. Later I mixed some earth with water and poured it into the hole until it was filled up. I understood that with Prabhupada there is no excuse. You were expected to find a way to solve a given problem. It is not enough to simply try. There has to be a result. The next day, while I was chanting japa outside the temple, I saw Hansadutta coming down the stairs, holding a bundle in his arms, as if he was carrying a baby. And right behind him, his wife Himavati also had a baby on her arms. Obviously, Prabhupada was not handing out babies. Then it dawned on me that they were carrying the deities that Darsha had brought from India. Later I found out that Prabhupada had given the deities to Hansadutta because the Paris devotees were not yet ready to install Radha Krishna deities. Instead, he told the devotees to carve Lord Jagannath. This was done by Daya Mrigyadas, and those deities are still being worshipped today in the Paris temple. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. All right. So we have a bit more than half an hour before we will have a break with this session of glorification, and then we will go and have the opening of the new Prasadam hall, and again in the afternoon from 5 to 7 we have more time for hearing more glorifications. And so for now I would like to ask Rimati Mataji. Is she also here with us? No? Okay. Then I'd like to ask Nishina Kalachaprabhu. Would you like to address us? Say a few words? Okay. Yeah, so we can all see you.
He's always watching. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama. We can't see Rama.
see. So I didn't spend much time here, but I have been coming here over the last maybe 20 years. I first had the opportunity to do service for Radha and Mohana when they were in Sringachetra. It was an interesting arrangement. You had Radha and Mohana and Sringachetra proper in the middle. It was kind of an unusual arrangement. But anyhow, that's what they wanted at that time, that's what happened. Following on from Sachin Maharaj, you were telling some very interesting stories, particularly that one from Karoli. I thought that was quite an interesting story. And we find that many deities have stories like that, where devotees have had an interaction with the Lord, and it's really been tangible in their lives. A few stories I can think of in ISKCON. Traveling around, I do get to hear a lot of stories about devotees who've had exchanges with deities. Two in particular I can think of. One was in California, in San Francisco, when they installed the first deity of Jagannatha Subhadra in ISKCON. And a similar scenario to the rules Baba kind of thing. And what happened was, back in those, this is the beginning of ISKCON, back in those days the offering was done quite differently from what it's done now. And what would happen, and the altar in San Francisco was very high. You had to actually get a ladder to get up to the altar and clean the deities. They didn't dress them much in those days, they just wiped them down. And so what they would do is they'd come and they'd put the plate of Boga on the altar in front of the deities. They'd close the curtain, and then everyone would bow down and ring the bell and pray for the deities to accept. And so what happened was one day the cook burnt the rice. So then the argument ensued, and two sides developed. One said, no, you have to feed him. The other side saying, no, you can't offer him burnt rice. So in the end, they have to feed him one out. And so they put the Boga up on the altar, they all bowed down, they offered, and start ringing the bell to offer. And then while they're bowing down, they heard this crash from behind the altar. And they opened up the curtain, and the plate was just strewn across the floor. So then they understood that you don't feed Krishna burnt rice. So the reason I tell this story is, and one more I will tell also, is we can see how Krishna is fully capable of interacting with us, and fully capable. And we should never think, just like the story you were telling this morning about this Bhakti-mana Hitami Sacha Prajendanandana, we should never think that the deity is a statue. We should understand that this is Krishna, personally present before me. We should never think that this is, that Krishna's entered into the deity. And you're also mentioning about the 5 different types of incarnations, the Paravyuha, Vaibhava, These are the different, of course Krishna can manifest himself in unlimited ways, but these are the 5 ways he chooses to manifest himself. So we understand that the Archa Vigraha, which Srila Prabhupada would generally call the mercy incarnation of Krishna. And why the mercy incarnation? I was having this conversation with a driver coming in yesterday. Because we're conditioned. We have conditioned senses, we have material senses, we cannot perceive Krishna. And we can't perceive, it's like you do a fire up here, you see the fire, but you can't see Krishna there. How many of us can see Krishna in his holy name? So Krishna agrees to manifest in a form we can perceive, so that we can interact with him directly. We can bathe him, we can dress him, we can offer him food, we can wake him up in the morning, we can put him to bed at night. Just like you were talking about the story where we read the Nectar Devotion. And it's such a nice experience to do that. I remember in Mayapur some years ago, when I was learning deity worship from Janani Basra, that I would go on the altar with him at night. And the Pujaris would do the dressing, but he put the deities to bed every night. And he'd sit down there in front of Krishna, and he'd read the Krishna book. And he's reading all these amazing, he was reading the pastime of Vivida the gorilla, and how Krishna was having this fight. And I was just thinking, but this is, I'm looking at the deity, and he's reading his book, I mean, this is you. It really helps you to develop that awareness of the deity present before us. Another interesting story also comes from Mayapur. Chinayashru told me this. He's a very humble soul. He doesn't like devotees to glorify and talk about his experiences. But I'll take a liberty and share it because it's a wonderful story. in Mayapur, because Prabhupada told them, to make the milk, the night milk very, very hot. And so what they do in Mayapur is they give the milk in a silver cup and they put a cooling bowl underneath the milk. It's just like a little katoria with a flat bottom, and they sit the cup of milk in there so Krishna can pick it up, but also so he can pour the milk backwards and forwards. Srila Prabhupada liked that also. He liked the milk poured back and forwards because it froths the milk up and it makes it more flavoursome. So one day he was offering the milk in the evening and he realised he forgot the cooling bowl. And he was in a bit of a dilemma because he didn't want to be late, but also he didn't want the Lord to burn his fingers on the cup because silver is a very good conductor and the cup was very hot. And so he said, no, I have to offer it on time. So he offered it on time. And then he went outside to chant his evening Gayatri while the Lord was honouring the milk. And then when he came back in, again, the milk was spilled on the floor. So he understood, I always have to offer a cooling bowl. So there's many amazing stories like that about the deities and how they let the devotees know what they want. And it's kind of interesting because practically every place I go, devotees say, aren't our deities the most beautiful in the world? And it's true, they are. I mean, I can't argue with that. They're very beautiful, just like Madana, Mohana, they're very, very beautiful. But one of the things I see in different places where I go, it's really based on the devotees' mood, their attitude with which they serve the deities. Just like here, for instance, you have a look at these beautiful lamps, especially this one here. I think this is one of the older lamps, and the Sandhya Arati lamps they have with the where they put they get the stick and they twirl the cotton wool around it. Many of these were made when Astarata was the head pujari. And also, if you ever have the wonderful opportunity to go and do some service here, I do encourage you to do service here. It's a really nice experience. They've just done a fabulous renovation from basically behind the altar into the kitchen. Just recently finished a few days ago, where they've removed they had all these big drums. I was encouraging them a few years ago to move the drums out because how much do you put on the Raj bowl of rice? You put like a cup or two. And they had these drums that had 20 kilograms of rice in them. So by the time you get down to the bottom, it's all going to be stale. So they've moved them all out. And now they've got small containers, they've got nice covers, they've got proper floor, proper windows, everything like that. Really nice to keep clean. This is one of the cleaner deity departments I've had the pleasure of doing service in. And there's a really nice focus here. And the focus is actually around the deities. And you see this in different temples where you go. I can think of, for instance, London. They have such a nice focus around Radha. New York is very much the same. They're really, really focused on Radha. In different temples you go around the world, you'll see there's a really nice mood where not just the pujaris, because the pujaris naturally they're putting the deities in the center, but where the whole community is focused on the deities. And you'll find in those communities the deities seem to be much more present. And I do feel that this is largely the reciprocation of the Lord with his bhakta. And Jiva Goswami describes this quite a lot in the Bhakti Sandarbha, where he's talking about how all these different practices, which if they're devoid of devotional service, they're devoid of bhakti, they're useless, they have no worth whatsoever. And even he was going so far as to say that even that Veda which does not describe Krishna has no worth. So when devotees are able to work cooperatively together to learn how to serve Krishna and to please Krishna, there's a really interesting letter that Prabhupada wrote. I've been working over the past few years of preparing the next ISKCON Deity Worship book, which was initially put out by my predecessor, Krishna Chaitra Maharaj. And so we haven't had it in print for a while, so I'm working on the next one. And I found this really amazing letter from Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada describes this: when the devotee with all their heart and soul worships Krishna, when they dress Krishna, when they cook for Krishna, talk about the different activities, he said, Krishna smiles. And if Krishna smiles upon you just once, your life is perfect. You don't need anything else. And it reminds me of a prayer that for those who have experienced Bhajanas, they may know this prayer. So Savabhadra Pura Bhagavinda Vivena Premasmitena Nainam Uttaya Jo Visha, I can't remember the whole thing. But yeah, we chant this prayer when we wake the deities in the morning. And basically it's saying that the Supreme Lord is unlimitedly merciful. Because it's also something you hear devotees will often say that, oh, you know, our deities are the most merciful. And it's true. Because Krishna is the most merciful. There's no one more merciful than Krishna. And when you consider, just to maybe inject a bit of humour here, I was born in Australia. When Prabhupada went to Australia, he called Australia Malacha Desh. Malacha Desh. Believe me, the things that are like, you know, important in Australia is football, meat pies, beer. This is all like the culture. They have a place in the North Australia called Darwin, and they have the longest bar, you know, where they serve alcohol in the world. You know, and some place in Germany built one that's a bit longer, so they smash it down, they build it twice as long. You know, we're very proud of these things, you know, in Australia. And this is the culture. And yet, by the process of devotional service, by trying to follow, you know, the teachings of our Acharyas, somehow or other I wind up in this service, where I'm teaching devotees how to serve Krishna and how to please Krishna. And this is just evidence that it's not birth, it's not gender, it's not, none of these things impact upon our capacity to serve Krishna. It's just a connection of the heart. I was in Vrindavan recently for the 50th anniversary of the installation of Radha Shyama Sundar. It's a really wonderful event. In the morning it was focused on the deities, but in the afternoon it was devotees sharing their remembrances of Srila Prabhupada and the remembrance of the deities. And one of the devotees, he told a really interesting story, which kind of like, it just like turned the light on for me. Where he was on Hamsaduta's bus party in India. And you know, he was the mechanic. He had an engineering background, so he became the mechanic. And because of this, sometimes he would miss out on participating in various events. And it happened that he was meant to get initiated in Vrindavan, and for some reason it didn't happen just because of the problems with the program. And then sometime later, Srila Prabhupada was in Mayapur, and they were driving to Mayapur to meet Prabhupada, and he was meant to get initiated then. And on the way, one of the buses broke down, so he had to stay there and fix the bus. And so as he got to Mayapur, the devotee was just walking out of the temple after initiation. It was really nice and this and that. So he was feeling quite frustrated. And then sometime later, they were back on the other side of India, Vrindavan side, and Hamsadutta spoke to him. He says, "You've got a problem with something, you don't want to get initiated?" And he said, "But Maharaj, you have to understand this. And then maybe a day or so later, Hamsadutta Maharaj, he called him and said, "Prabhupada wants to see you." So he walked into Prabhupada's room, and as soon as he offered his obeisance, he stood up and said, "Your name is," I can't remember that, he said, "Your name is," and then the devotee stood there, he was like dumbstruck. And he said, "That's it?" And Prabhupada said, "You want more?" And he said, "Well, what about, yajna and this and that, and the beads and things?" And Prabhupada said, "You have to understand, it's a thing of the heart." And that really, for me, really made a big connection, especially with the deities. Now, I'm a practical person, and so I'm definitely not trying to encourage people to, barb out too much in the deity worship, but you have to understand there needs to be a connection in the heart. But the connection starts by following the rules and regulations of deity worship. There's a really nice letter that Prabhupada wrote in 1969, I think, maybe 70, to a devotee called Aniruddha. It's in the database, it's all about kitchen rules. And then Prabhupada's explaining all about, don't mix prasad with vulva, don't, put prasad in the fridge, don't do this thing. Telling about how to clean things. If things are cooked separately, they should be offered separately, all these type of things. Then at the end of it, Prabhupada made for me what was a very profound statement. He said, these are simple rules and they must be followed. If one is not prepared to follow the rules for Krishna, where is the proof you love Krishna? So at the stage of Vaidisana Bhakti, this is how you prove your love, is by following rules. So I'd probably vote for being on time. Because that is proof of your love. If you try to follow, because understand where the rules came from. They come from Krishna. It's not like someone just made, like Prabhupada made up all these rules because he couldn't figure how to keep us busy. No, these rules come from Krishna. There's a chapter in the 11th canto, which I think you're reading from this morning, where it's called Lord Krishna's Instructions on Deity Worship. So he's explaining to Uddhava how to worship him. And he tells him, really interesting, he tells him what he likes best in Kali Yuga. He said, in Kali Yuga, in my deity form, there's two things I like the most, bathing and decorating. So you see here, the way they decorate the deities is so beautiful. And one of the things I really appreciate about the decoration, not using decoration in the sense of decorating a Christmas tree or something, that's one thing I think I learned from Master Radha. He didn't like it when the deities would decorate like that. But you see that all the ornaments the deities wear, the garments the deity wears, the clothes the deities wear, is all proportionate to the size of the deity. So this is personalism. You look at the deity and you because already we see Radha and Krishna very, very beautiful. So we just try to enhance their natural beauty. And then it's like, when you set a diamond into gold, the diamond's already very beautiful, but when you put it in gold, it becomes even more beautiful. And one of the most beautiful things we can offer to Krishna is our love, which we do through the process of bhakti. So I don't know how many of you live here or wherever you live in ISKCON, or wherever you live in the world. If there's deities near you, then I definitely encourage you to go and worship those deities in some way or another. Even because Maharaj, you were talking about the items of deity worship this morning. In the Nectar Devotion, I think it's chapter 6 or 7, Rupa Goswami describes how to execute devotional service. There's 64 items of devotional service. I can't remember whether it's 37 or 39 of those items are directly connected to deity worship. And also you look in the Madhya Lila chapter 24, Prabhupada gives the list of 64 items given by Sanatana Goswami. The first thing you do is you go in the temple, you ring the bell, you chant Jai Shri Shri Radha Madana Mohana. This is the first item of deity worship, is to ring the bell. And this is called Prabodhana. And then you call it names of deity. So even these things are elements of deity worship. But wherever you are in the world, please, get involved in deity worship. And the more you serve Krishna, the more this natural love that's there in your heart will become revealed. And that you will understand more and more the relationship with Krishna. So, is that okay?
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Also for your appreciation and encouragement for the devotees here in Kolokadam. So our time is also there, yes. So we have many more devotees we have planned to invite. Of course, Vishwadev Prabhu, Bhagavad Dharma Prabhu, we have Govinda Prem Prabhu and others. So we have a second session in the afternoon, from like 5 o'clock to 7, so please to come again, so we can have the other devotees in the afternoon. For now, I think there's one short little video, which also shows how Radha Madana Mohana came. And then we have Manchu Ramani, Mataji will speak, and then she will guide us also to the next part of the program, which is the opening of the Prasadam Hall. But first, we have this little, I think, 4-5-minute video.
राधा मदन मोहन की
Next we have Anshula One.
Hare Krishna. So we have all seen or heard how the deities, they came from Schloss Rellershof. If we speak about the small deities, then we go back longer, because they were installed in 96. So they are even more than 50 years, 56 years since they were installed. So they were actually the very first deities of Shri Radha Krishna, which were installed in Europe. So they are very historical, and they are here on our altar. And they're very beautiful and very merciful, and they like to go places. They like to go to Cologne, to Frankfurt, to many places. All the temples, they invite them, and they come. They come with the priests, they come to the kirtan, and they will be there at different events, giving blessings. So these deities are the yatra deities, and originally, when I first came to Germany, everybody was Radha Madana Mohan Bhakta. That was the whole German yatra. They were not from Flensburg to Munich to Frankfurt to all the temples, Heidelberg. Every temple was Radha Madan Mohan Bhaktas, because we were all like one yatra at the lotus feast of Shri Radha Madan Mohan. So this is also very special. I personally lived on the farm for some time, and by some special grace, when there was some talking that the deities has to move, then somehow I was no longer there. I was here, so I didn't have the pain of them leaving, but I had the joy of receiving them here. So I moved before, and I've been here since they came in 97. Especially before that, when the deities were on the farm, like Asarada Prabhu, he was saying, it is only a man's service to worship the deities. So there were no ladies on the altar. Ladies were cooking. I was personally taught by Narahari, drilled for more than a month personally in the kitchen by her how to cook for Shri Radha and Mohana and cook for Lord Nishingadev. But my personal service to the deities has always been to bring people, to bring guests, to bring friends of Krishna, to bring yogis or all kinds of people. Not worship. My service is always like in front of the altar, speaking about them, glorifying them, and hoping that people can connect to them. That's my main kind of like relationship to the deities. And also the way they came here. At the time on the farm, when they were still on the farm, we actually had endeavor of a few devotees like Dasavata, Bhaktavatsala. There were a few devotees who were there who were thinking, we have to do some preaching here. We have to invite people. We have to have Sunday feasts. And it was like almost budding. It was almost happening on the farm, but it didn't really happen. So I personally feel very much that this was the desire of Shri Radha Madan Mohan, that they really wanted to have guests. They wanted to have Sunday feasts. They wanted to have festivals. They wanted to have seminars and gatherings and people coming, like in busloads. That's what they want, not to be like a secluded place where nobody sees them. I remember the first time we made the summer festival on the farm. We had over the weekend we had 1,500 people coming, and at that time Asarada Prabhu, he said that if there are more than 1,000 people in one day, then the deities don't sleep during the day. Before that day, it used to be altar closed for 2 hours during the day. That we don't do here anymore like that, but that was actually the standard, that the altar was closed. And when the deities were on the farm, there would be a special artik in the evening, which would be the last artik that were offered, and that was all for the ladies. So we would be there, all ladies of the whole temple, we would be there, we would sing a special song. Yugala, the song you sing when you're swinging the deities, I don't remember the song now, but this song, this would be sung. Exactly, so this song, and it would just be the ladies there, and of course the priest on the altar would be a man, but otherwise we would just be all the ladies of all the temples would gather in the evening and sing a special song for the deities. That was very sweet. Yes, so this was just a few things. Shri Radha Madan Mohan, they really came here for a special purpose. They're the Yatra deities, but they also bring all the devotees together. So that's very wonderful to see. And my personal most favorite place to be during such a festival is to stand on the side of the altar and look at all of you who are looking at Krishna. That I like very much. I think there's so much emotion. Everybody who comes here to take shelter, there's so much love, there's so much devotion coming from all of you, and it's very inspiring when one is living here to see how all these devotees from all over the places, how they are connected to the deities. And also that we took in 32 Ukraine devotees about 3 years ago, and they were not in a good condition, many of them, because they came from a war zone. They came with the clothes in the back, whatever they could carry, they had with them, existence ripped off like that. But it has been a proof how Radha Madan Mohan just entered the heart of these persons. I get really emotional about it because I can see how they have been saved by the service. They're cooking, they're doing all the worship, they're doing all the offerings, they're making garlands without end, you know. The most beautiful garlands we have had the last 3 years because of the Ukrainian devotees. So I want to thank really all the devotees who are doing all of these services, which when I like to bring people here, it only works because the pujaris are so dedicated that you don't need to explain anything about bhakti. Because they can just look at the altar and then they understand, oh, this is bhakti. This is the principle of bhakti. This means you serve God with love and devotion just by looking at the altar. Even a person who is like here for like a Ho'oponopono course or whatever thing, they've never been in a temple before, they can see bhakti when they see the altar of Shri Radha Madana Mohana. So that's very powerful, and that's thanks for all the devotees who are serving here with so many years of dedication, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so we have a little service, yeah.
We'll just have 2 more speakers.
Okay.
It's okay?
We have time for the shot later. Very good.
Thank you so much. Okay, so it's always good if Krishna is in charge at the end of the day with all these kind of things. So I think kitchen is a little late, we have a little more time. So, Vishwadev Prabhu, can we kindly ask you to also address us a few words? Thank you so much. As much as you like.
Just make it a little short, because sharing sentence from that old time, which is Radha Madana Mohana. So the first time is, 50 years is almost like a lifetime, you think like that. But this first, the ashram is still present. I was a young boy, went to Schloss Rettershof, Sajjana Maharaj gave the Sunday feast class, didn't understand so much, but came with the second Sunday, and then you invited me, maybe you remember, stay overnight. So then one night I stayed, go to the Gola Arctic, and at that time there was no Instagram, there was no internet, you didn't know it was an Arctic. It was just, so then I went to the Gola Arctic. I think I was the only one with non-Vaishnava clothes. And then at that time, a lot of incense was offered. I remember that. It was really smoky. Temple room in Schloss Rettershof was not so big like this one, a little smaller, but it was packed. So then Gola Arctic was there, everything was mystic from my side, and then it was the end of the Gola Arctic, and then everybody went on the floor, full dandavat. I didn't know what to do, because I'm also allowed to make a dandavat, or what is a dandavat? The temple altar was quite, like now, very colorful, very smoky. What was really impressing me was the surrender of the devotees, this devotion. Full dandavat. I never saw before, full dandavat to the deities. So that was very impressive, and I didn't know should I also make a dandavat. And Master Radha just finished the incense. He was there on the altar, he went to Gola Arctic, because everybody was on the floor. Only I was standing there. He also looked at me with his eyes and said, I have to go on the floor. So I went to the floor, 2 weeks or 4 weeks later I joined. And we still remember, and we still have some devotees here like Govinda Prem, Priyatran, Madana Mataji, no might speak later on, I don't know yet, Yogeshwara from Schloss Rettershof. We still remember this time was like the time of selfless service. That we still remember. We did selfless service. And when we went on the street, there was no plane, there was not an option like, the direction was we die on the street. That was our option. There was no other planes, it was really kind of a selfless time in a group. We didn't think about other things. Just 4 weeks ago, Krishna Prabhu, remember, Rit Party, maybe you remember Rit Party? Yeah. He was here with his brother. And he said, I have to see Shri Radha Madana because still they don't let me go. And that was the selfless time, we just did selfless after service. And then, of course, we went to the farm, the Shingalif came. And from my side, we get, as Sangatani devotees, we wasn't involved so much with the moods. Shingalif was, from our understanding, from my understanding, take away the anatas, the demons. In the beginning was thinking they take the demons from the street, but that was a misunderstanding, I guess. It was the demons inside. And then that you get a pure heart for worshipping Radha and Krishna. So that was not really a contradiction. Yeah, and then, there was like 15 years on the farm in Shingalif, and it was like 15 years. So it was, in one sense, alles gut. So then we bought the Luka down, and it was not really from the beginning the plan that Shishilana Manmohan comes here. Sutta and me got ordered to buy or ordered Panchatattva for him. That was the original idea. The CBC sent us to Mayapur, a place near Mayapur, and we ordered Panchatattva. So, and 1 year later, we heard it. Radha Madana, the deities, they go their own ways, but that we control the things. So by then came a letter from the farm, from the council from the farm, and said, we cannot make it, it's too much work, the high standard, and why you order new deities when we're already struggling? It was a whole thing. So then, National Council, there was a lot of discussion, maybe you remember, and then it was decided, they come here. And then the order Panchatattva, they know in Ljubljana. You know them. It's still there. So yeah, but the spirit is still the same. So the selfless service, so whenever I see Shishivada Mohana, I think, yeah, that should be, we remember Yogeshwar and others. It was a time that you really surrendered. And here the pujaris were really, I have to say, very nice service. That makes it easier to again come back to the roots. Like Satyananda Maharaj taught me last time. By the way, in 3 years, I remember, we have jubileum, 50 years for your first lecture. Yeah. And you promised me to give me 1 lecture and 50 years lectures. But I forgot. I still have 3 years. So that we can come up again to this kind of mood, why we joined. We gave that you last time taught. Sometimes you really have to remember why we joined. Why we joined? Because we want to be part of a spiritual revolutionary movement to do selfless service. And Shri Radha Mahan makes it us easier. Haribol. Haribol.
Thank you so much, Shri. It's so nice to, I don't know how you feel, but it's like a puzzle, so many different information, memories coming together, giving a more entire picture, at least for myself. Of course, some of you know the whole story, but I think for us, devotees in our generation, it's nice to hear about these memories. So, Noraini?
Very short, very short. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Madana Ki Jai. I was thinking really to speak about this, what I have here. And first I don't know, maybe some think, oh, she only wants to sit in the center and speak about herself, but it's something really sweet. And I want to speak also to Rohini Mataji, maybe she is looking. And she, when there was this installation and there was this Abhishek, and suddenly, really, it was for me a total surprise. I think she came and said, Naraini, all the ladies can bathe, they can go on the altar. And I was so pregnant with my daughter, so a month later she came. And it was for me like a bomb. It was such a, I could not understand in the first moment, and it was really such a present, and I was double enthusiastic. Also, wortwörtlich doppelt in Ekstase, also und für mich selber. Ja, vielen Dank, liebe Rohini, für alle deine wunderschönen Zeiten, die wir hatten mit dir und dass du uns so viel beigebracht hast. Hare Krishna. Das ist der Beweis. Das bin ich. Ich war auch mal jung, ne? Man kann es jetzt. And this, it was during the Abhishek, and this was a present from Mohini. She gave it to me. Unbelievable. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Dr. Valentina, I'm looking to receive as an organizer. Do we have a little more time, or we should now move on?
One more. I need to see the deities when they come out. I need to see when they go out.
Do I understand it correctly? Valentina, one moment. Do I understand correctly? The next part of the program will be that we go with the deities and show them the new room. And you are now checking if they are ready to go. May I ask Manju Ramani? The room is ready for inspection. We could go when the deities are ready, right?
Okay. So we have. So we have Govinda praying, probably. Do you like to? Yep.
You can start. You've done it, then come out.
Good. After Govinda
Okay.
Ich spreche Deutsch. Ist das ein Problem oder kann man übersetzen? Ne? Gut. Ich bringe zuerst mein Thema Ehrerbietung.
First of all, I'd like to offer my obeisance.
Meinem Thema Srila Prabhupada, allen anwesenden Reisemaster, dann Lord Chaitanya Nityananda und Shri Radha Mohana. Ich springe direkt ins Geschehen rein. Das war 1978, als Daniel und ich die ersten Bücher von Srila Prabhupada auf der Straße bekamen. Wir haben die Bücher direkt gelesen, richtig verschlungen. Und dann war es so, dass jede Woche nachfolgend immer ein Devotion.
We would need to go on parallel so that you speak a few sentences and then the translation comes. So
okay. Few sentences. Okay. Dann war es so, dass jede Woche darauf folgend immer Devotees mit Srila Prabhupads Büchern in unsere Stadt kamen.
So every other week, devotees came to our city presenting Srila Prabhupada's books.
Irgendwann kamen sie nicht mehr.
But sometimes they didn't show anymore.
Dann habe ich in der Bhagavad Gita von Srila Prabhupada die Telefonnummer von Schloss Rettershof gefunden.
Then in the book of the Bhagavad Gita, I found the phone number of Schloss Rettershof.
Ich habe angerufen.
So I called her.
Und dann war eine sehr freundliche, nette Stimme am anderen Apparat.
And a very lovely voice answered my call.
Ich habe gesagt, was ist los mit euch? Kommt keiner mehr nach Schwäbisch Hall? Was ist los?
So I said, so what's happening? Nobody from you comes to Schwäbisch Hall anymore. What's going on?
Dann sagte die andere Stimme am Ende, wer bist du denn?
So the other voice said, well, who are you?
Sag ich bin Horst aus Schwäbisch Hall.
And I said, I'm Horst from Schwäbisch Hall.
Dann sagte die Stimme, oh, wir sind ganz zufällig in einer Woche in Schwäbisch Hall.
Oh, and then the voice said, oh, accidentally, we will be in Schwäbisch Hall in about 1 week.
Brückenschlag. Also, nächste Sentenz.
So, next instance.
Wir haben uns verabredet an der Kirche in Schwäbisch Hall. Und dann kamen 2 junge Männer in Safrandotis und Bomberjacken auf uns zu.
So we made an appointment to meet at the church, and 2 saffron devotees showed up, and well, there was saffron devotees and big black jackets.
Und das war Satchinanda Swami.
And one of them was Satchinanda Swami.
Und Ashok Kumar.
And Ashok Kumar Prabhu.
Wir sind dann in den Kaffee gegangen, haben Tee getrunken.
So we went to a cafe and had a tea.
Und dann hat Satchinanda Swami und Ashok Kumar Prabhu uns auf eine Wiese entführt und haben für uns gekocht.
And then Satchinanda Swami and Ashok Prabhu took us away to a meadow, and they actually cooked for us.
Und haben uns gleich ein ganzes Bhagavatam-Set verkauft.
And they also sold us a complete Bhagavatam set.
Dann sagte Satchinanda Swami, ich lade euch ein zu Janmashtami auf Schloss Rettershof.
And Satchinanda Swami said, I'd like to invite you to attend Janmashtami festival on Schloss Rettershof.
Als wir dort ankamen, ging die Tür auf und Bhakti Bhushan Swami stand vorne am Tor.
When we arrived there, Bhakti Bhushan Swami was just in front of the gate.
Kommt rein und er hat uns direkt in den Tempelraum hineingeführt.
So he said, come on in, and he led us right away to the temple room.
Und da war dann Srila Prabhupada.
And Srila Prabhupada was there.
Ich habe nicht einen Moment Zweifel gehabt, dass das Srila Prabhupada ist. Ich habe keinen Moti gesehen, ich habe Srila Prabhupada gesehen.
And for a single moment I doubted that I saw Srila Prabhupada. I didn't see his motive, it was him who was present.
Dann plötzlich hat es einen lauten Knall getan.
And all of a sudden there was a big bang.
Und ein Devoti ist neben mir laut krachend mit einem Dandavat zu Boden gefallen.
And the devotee went down to his full dandavats in a very loud way.
Dann ist er wieder aufgestanden und sagte, seht ihr den schönen Krishna und Radharani hier?
And then he got up and asked me, do you see the beautiful Krishna and Radharani here?
Ich habe nur Blumen gesehen. Es waren nur Blumen da.
And I could only see flowers.
Dann sage ich, wo ist Krishna?
And I asked him, well, where is Krishna?
Schau, siehst du nicht die schwarze Gestalt und die helle leuchtende daneben?
Well, don't you see that black figure and the shining one next to it?
Und das war der erste Darshan von Sri Radha Mohan, den ich haben durfte.
So that was my first darshan of Sri Radha Mohan I was allowed to have.
Dann kam der Devoti wieder zu mir. Möchtest du einen kleinen Dienst für Radharani und Krishna machen?
So the devotee came up to me again and asked, would you like to do a little service for Radha Madana?
So, ja, wenn es in meinen Möglichkeiten steht.
Well, of course, if I'm able to do so.
Hier ist ein Besen und eine Schaufel und ein Eimer. Magst du den Tempelraum durchfegen? Ja.
Okay, he said, here is a broom, and would you like to clean the temple room?
Und ich habe den Tempelraum, ich habe mich so gut gefühlt. Es war einfach ein Gefühl, das ich noch nicht kannte.
And I felt so good. It was a feeling that I was not familiar with.
Und du hast das vorhin so schön in deinem Speech gesagt, Bhava ist die größte Zutat, die man durch Vaishnava Kripa bekommen kann.
And you mentioned it so nicely before that Bhava is the greatest ingredient that you can get.
So, nachdem ich fertig war, hatte ich das Gefühl, ich habe zu den Deities dann hochgeschaut, zu Madana und habe das Gefühl gehabt, die haben sich gefreut.
So after finishing my service, I looked up at Krishna and I had the impression, yes, they were delighted.
Dann ging der Tag weiter und dann war das riesige Festival. Ich kann das nicht mal alles im Detail jetzt erzählen.
So as the day went on, the festival went on and I can't even remember all the details.
Dann kam die Nacht und wir haben uns alle schlafen gelegt. Oben im Schloss Reddershof, da ist ein großer Flur gewesen und da haben wir uns dann alle mit Schlafsäcken hingelegt.
So, but up in the attic, you could just take your sleeping bag and lie down.
Ich bin morgens um 9:30 Uhr durch einen lauten Schrei wieder aufgewacht.
I woke up at 9:30 because there was a really loud cry or shout.
Ein Skandal! Ein Skandal! Heute ist Prabhupads Erscheinungstag.
What a scandal! What a scandal! Today is Prabhupada's appearance day.
Das war Prithu Prabhu, der da die Fäuste in die Hüfte gestemmt stand und richtig zornig war.
So this was Prithu Prabhu and he was really angry.
Wir sind alle ganz schnell aufgestanden. Ich habe ein ganz schlechtes Gewissen gehabt, obwohl ich nur Gast war.
So we got up real fast and I really got a bad conscience immediately, although I was just a guest.
Ja. So von diesem Tag an haben Danu und ich jede Woche Schloss Reddershof einmal besucht.
So from that day on, Danu and me visited Schloss Reddershof at least once a week.
Und immer wieder den Darshan von Radharani und ihrem lieben Krishna gehabt.
And got the beautiful darshan of Radharani and Krishna.
Und da kam wieder ein Devotee zu mir, möchtest du einen Dienst machen?
And then another devotee came up to me and asked me to do whether I wanted to do this service again.
Was kann ich machen?
So, what can I do?
Du kannst den Boden wischen. Hier ist ein Eimer mit Wasser und ein Schubber.
Well, here you have, you can clean the floor again.
In dem Moment kam Astrada Prabhu zu mir und hat mich angeguckt.
In this moment, Astrada Prabhu stepped forward and looked at me.
Das scheint dir nicht so zu gefallen, oder?
So you don't seem to like this, do you?
Ja, nee.
Well, yes, no.
Sagt Astrada Prabhu, komm mal mit, ich habe was für dich.
And then Astrada suggested, come along, I've got something for you.
Dann hat er mich um das Tempelgebäude rumgeführt und da waren 100 kleine Pflänzchen. So kleine Ochsen.
He took me around the building and showed me hundreds of little tiny plants.
Die kannst du jetzt alle umtopfen mit der Erde in größere Behälter.
So you can take those and repot them into larger pots.
Ich habe erst später erfahren, dass das Tulsi-Babys waren.
It was only later that I learned that this was Tulsi baby.
Das war eine Kripa, die in mir alles auf den Kopf gestellt hat.
This was such a creeper I experienced which turned everything upside down.
Von dem Tag an hatte ich bei Astrada Prabhu einen Stein im Brett. Ich weiß nicht, wie man das auf Englisch sagt.
Well, he really liked me. Astrada Prabhu. I lost the word.
Ich mache einen Zeitsprung nach vorne.
So we move on again in time.
Janmastami auf der Farm im bayerischen Wald, also Nissingahachalam.
Back then it was in Nissingahachalam in the Bavarian farm.
Astrada Prabhu hatte mich, Mahabhavatadari, noch einen anderen Devotee und dann mich ausgesucht. Wir durften auf dem Altar mit dabei sein.
Astrada Prabhu had selected another devotee and me to come up to the altar.
Ich war so aufgeregt, ich stand direkt vor Shri Radha Madana, vor Radharani, ich war aufgeregt.
I was so excited to be right in front of Radha Madana.
Und auch die anderen beiden Devotees waren aufgeregt.
And the other devotees were also really excited.
Wir wussten nicht, wie wir uns verhalten sollten oder irgendwas tun.
We were really nervous and didn't know what to do or how to properly behave.
Dann sagte erst Radha Prabhu mit strenger Stimme: Sag mal, seid ihr noch normal?
And Radha Prabhu said, well, are you behaving normally or are you straight in your mind?
Und jetzt kommt's, könnt ihr nicht einfach nur mal fromm still dastehen?
Couldn't you just simply stand still piously?
Es ist uns schwer gefallen, aber wir haben es gemacht.
Well, we had a hard time doing so, but we finally did.
Hier möchte ich enden. Ich möchte nur sagen, ich bin immer wieder, wie Asterix in den Zaubertrank gefallen ist. Kann man das gerade übersetzen?
Okay, I'd like to come to an end now. It feels for me like Asterix, who fell into the magic potion.
Bin ich lieber in den Kripa-Zaubertrank von Guru Kripa und Vaishnava Kripa gefallen.
So again and again I fell into the magic potion, the Kripa potion of Guru and Vaishnava Kripa.
Und dafür bin ich so dankbar.
And I'm eternally thankful for that.
Jai Shri Radha.
Thanks so much. Go to the prayer program. Yeah, thank you everyone for being with us so long and listening attentively, and looking forward to continue at 5 o'clock. But now we will have this ceremony where we have Radha Krishna coming from the altar, Jota Radha Krishna, and we will go and open the prasadam hall. And of course afterwards we also serve prasadam. So thank you very much. Would you like to say something? Yeah, okay. So then we'll just have some kirtan, and then we go all together to the prasadam hall. Hare Krishna.